right, welcome back, everybody. A few weeks ago, one of our past guests, Steven Reiner, episode 16, if you want to check it out, he posted an excerpt from the SCCA's ruling on the new CAMT, or I guess not new rule, and he put that on the Cam Nation Facebook page. You can go check it out. As you expect, it brought out a lot of opinions. So I figured it was a good opportunity to throw out a bone to see if anybody would bite to come on the show to talk about it. Two people took the bait. One's Terry Fair. We got him on the show tonight. The other's Matt Ramirez. He'll be on the next episode. So welcome to the show, Terry.
Hey, Tim, glad to be here.
Yep. So I don't personally know most of the guests that I bring on the show. So
Sure.
I do as much online stalking as I can to learn a little bit about people. So
Yeah.
you I feel like you kind of know your stuff. So you would do a better job of introducing yourself than I would. So why don't you just let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
All right. Well, my name's Terry Fair. I own a little business called Vorshlag Motorsports the last 20 years, suspension design, and we build some race cars. I started autocrossing at age 17, just happened to come up to an autocross in 1987 in College Station, Texas. And a buddy of mine's brother was in a sports car club there, and I didn't apply to school anywhere else. I only wanted to go to A&M because they had this huge sports car club, 150 members, one of the bigger student clubs, even though it was a 40,000 student a school. But it was based in the middle of Texas. I'm from Dallas, and I got there and immediately I was already friends with people because I'd been to an autocross when I was in high school, and I'm like, okay, I happened to ride with three people who were really fast in a second gen Camaro and two Fox Mustangs, and I just got hooked. I'm just hooked. And it became the reason why my 4 year degree became a 6.5 year degree, engineering degree, because I was in the sports car club in some sort of leadership role for the 6.5 years I was there. And it became like a job. I probably spent 30 hours a week, doing meetings or working on video. We were doing video back then on a Super 8, 8 millimeter, I'm sorry, video recorders. But we did autocrosses. We had Texas World Speedway was right there in town. So we did road course events and time trials in like the early 90s when no one had heard of time trials. We didn't call it that. But it gave me a lot of experience in motorsports at a very young age. And it completely, changed the career path that I had in mind. I was like, oh, I'm going to do some mechanical engineering job and work for other people. And I did that for probably about 11 years. And then in '05, I started Vorshlag as a company full-time, as a side business, and then full-time in '08. And it's given me experience with what the aftermarket does. What are the products and things that people want? What do they actually do? That doesn't always mesh up with SCCA rules or any rules for that matter.
Mhm.
But I think the SCCA is a little unique, and sometimes they make rules without looking what the market and what their customers, which is what our entrants are,
Mhm.
what they want to do. And so, as I told you before we started recording, I've probably written over 300 letters to the solo events board and the time trial board, trying to get rules, changed. I've had rules changes in NASA, in Optima, in Grassroots Motorsports $2,000 challenge, which we competed in a couple of years and won. So that's one thing that people that really get into the sport, they have to get into the rules. They have to know the rules and understand the interpretations of the rules. And we always push the rules.
Mhm.
The
Of
faster
course.
you are, the more you're going to push the rules. And that's something that me, Jason McDaniels, who's my head engineer past 14 years here, he's been autocrossing for over 30 years also. So we've had a lot of rules that we've helped write. We've had a lot of rules written to close loopholes we found. So it's something, it's kind of unique. I also do a lot of time trial. I started in, like I said, the early 90s, but I really started doing NASA time trial in '06 here in Texas. Only about 6 years into the NASA group. It only started in like about 2000. And time trial has really got really big. And North Texas, where I'm at now, we have 4 road courses within 90 miles of here. So we're kind of like spoiled. We have a lot of places
Yeah,
to
of
race
course.
every weekend. Almost every weekday I can be on track, and I'm on track about 30 days a year as part of my job and as part of my hobby.
Mhm.
I still love autocross. We have some event site challenges in Dallas area right now that make it really hard to do a competitive car that's got full aero and real suspension because we have some really bumpy sites. So it's
Mm,
kind of I've been on a bit of a hiatus for about a year, but we're looking at some new sites, and I'm really hoping to get going again. I was just on our Texas region Discord channel, and we're talking about new sites, and so I really understand the autocross side and then the crossover classes with time trial. So that's kind of my background there. I do a lot of testing. Like I said, we design and build suspension components here in house. We
mm,
make a lot of stuff right here in Texas,
okay.
and camber
Sweet.
plates, top mounts, sell a
Mm,
lot of shocks from various companies.
mm,
Do a lot of engineering. Half my staff are engineers,
that's cool.
so we understand the mechanics and the geometries of early cars, late cars. We build early and late cars, a lot of domestics, some imports.
Mm,
So that's kind of my background.
okay. And I know we're going to get into some of the history pre-Cam T,
Yeah.
um, well, or pre-Cam, I guess, in total.
Yeah.
Um, so in preparation for this, and I've honestly, these thoughts have been in my mind for quite a while, and I've kind of always thought that uh, the Cam T cutoff year was too new. I don't think
And it's moved. It has moved over
it's
the years. Yeah.
continually moving, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
in some other organizations, they may call it vintage or early, so be it.
Sure.
It's old cars. Theirs are
Yeah.
different than SCCA, and so
True.
with all those out of your mind, when you think
Hmm.
of what a vintage or old car would be, what year do you think that cutoff should be?
So that's a tough question. I've run Good Guys and Optima Series events for more than 15 years, and they have made it a moving target as well, but not as much as SCCA. Yeah, I mean, when I grew up, 60s and 70s muscle cars were kind of already old, but that's what we gravitated towards. And
Mm.
that's kind of what most people still think. The Gen X or the Boomer guys are like, oh, that's my Detroit Iron from the 60s and 70s. But yeah, Fox Mustangs I've got an 88 Mustang and here's 37 years old. How would you not call that a vintage car? I've got an
I,
89 IROC out here that we're doing some development on. That's a vintage car now. And I grew up when those things were new. And I still have trouble understanding that. Like, man, how is this car almost 4 decades? Oh, I'm old. Oh gosh. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Fox bodies still seem like new cars to me. But
right.
so let
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
So the UMI guys,
yeah,
their early class ends at 1978, which I thought was a little odd. So I
yeah,
started looking,
yeah.
and then it just occurred to me that I think in
That's when things
79 is
went
when they
retro.
started using strut front suspensions. Like the Fox came
Yep,
out and then the
it did.
Camaro came out all strut. So
82.
all the A
Yeah,
arm stuff was gone.
yeah,
And I was like, that's genius. I love it.
yeah,
And then Optima's like 1990 and earlier.
it's
And
moved. Yeah,
and,
for
and
sure.
I'm not really sure where 90 comes from because that's kind of a middle year
And
for
they have a
a lot of stuff.
flexible date. They have like if your car was designed and built before 90 up until the next generation. So you can use a Fox body that was made in 93
Mm,
because it came out in 79. It didn't really significantly change. Same with an F body. It was 82 to 92. So it's not a hard cutoff. It's like this is kind of a generational where we want to break things. But yeah,
mm.
that's optimal.
And I guess my
Yeah, and,
reasoning,
and I'm good friends with Jimmy and Wally and those
mm,
guys. I know their rules well because they've kind of made some changes based on some things we've done. So
right, right.
I understand their rules, even though I don't run their series this year. I plan to next year, this
Right.
Fox.
So then it got me thinking, well, I mean, if you go from a UMI rule set of 1978,
Yeah.
just imagine the difference in a car that was manufactured in
Oh God.
1978 to a car that was manufactured in the year 2000. When you
Yeah.
go to
It's
SCCA, you got to compete. Now
right.
they have some aero advantage. They
Yeah.
have ABS. Some of them have
Sometimes.
IRS, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
um,
I mean, if you're talking up through 90, you still have, pretty much all stick axle cars, unless you're talking like a C4 Corvette, which is its own whole thing.
and a Cobra Mustang.
And the
Oh, not
Cobra.
90, not 90. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't get that till 99.
Mm.
And it's still not a very good IRS, but that's something we're working on right now to fix. We're going to design something new. So I get it. UMI is kind of the newest of all the kind of sanctioning bodies. And I think they're still kind of they're trying to separate the really older cars, and
Mm.
I get it. There probably should be another cam class, to be honest. It should probably be cam classic,
Mm.
and then and I don't like the C, and it should be ABCD. It should be they need to quit with all the cuteness in the letters.
Mm.
But yeah, there probably should be a up through 78, because 79 was the first year American cars started using metric
True.
fasteners. There's
Mm.
no metric fasteners. The last year of a carburetor was like 85. So I kind of get the 78 that UMI has. Then again, if you think about, third gen Camaro is a lot better handling car than like a 78 Camaro.
Yeah.
And it's actually a little bit lighter. But they're all by modern standards really terrible. They're
Mm.
just awful. Like, yeah, we had a 24 Dark Horse last year, and that car was freaking amazing. It was 3,850 pounds, soaking wet, and it was a rocket ship. It was as quick at the same track with the same driver, me, as a C8, C51.
Oh, nice.
And it's just amazing. Drive-by-wire brakes, and I have a tab open. I was watching the Savage Geese video. They tested BMW M2, Dark Horse, and C8. And like, why would you test those the same? They're all the same cost. The C8 was the cheapest car and the lightest car of the group.
Hmm.
But the Dark Horse they liked the most because it still had a manual transmission. It's an amazing car with drive-by-wire brakes, and the braking things we saw on track with that car with stock tire, stock suspension, 1.55 G. That's just something you
Dang.
can't get. Even a 10-year-old, S550 can't do that. So
Hmm.
they are, compared to that, the 80s and 90s cars are really just so far back. And it's not hard to look at results from Cam. Even Cam C at Nationals gets just walked by F
Mm.
Street, and it shouldn't. But it's a difference in probably talent. And sometimes when you start doing a lot of prep, you over prep the car and you make it worse. It's really easy. And
Right.
I'm in the business of making suspension. It's really easy to go too far and have too many knobs and too much spring rate, and you make the car a mess.
Mm.
And on certain sites, especially at Lincoln, in where they hold nationals for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, it's kind of bumpy and you need kind of a soft setup.
So,
So
yeah.
it's, when you have a billiard table smooth asphalt site and you set up for that, and then you go to Lincoln, like, this is so different. It's
Different.
concrete and it's bumpy. And so tire compounds act differently. The suspension settings you use need to compensate. And most people don't know that you have to go to nationals. You have to go to spring nats. You have to go in spring and test there in Lincoln. And it's not exactly a fun drive for a lot of people, especially West
No.
and East Coast. It's a long
No.
way.
Well, and South.
Um, right. And in 2012, this was a year we just had moved to ESP
Mm.
in my 2011 Mustang here. And that was a radical car that had just come out with a Coyote engine and it made 420 horsepower. It was crazy. And we set the car up for ESP locally, and then we went to Spring Nats. I'm like, oh, our setup is all wrong. And we went to Nationals, and I think I got third. My wife won, but we were pretty far back from the people that were hardcore, like the Mark Monterage, that he only runs a street prepared. He runs that site. So you have to build around the site. And yeah, so it's real easy to make a car worse, is my point.
Mm.
But an older car can compete well. In Optima right now, a buddy of mine, Chris Ramey, he has like a early 70s 912 Porsche with an LS and a transaxle in the back, and it's really fast. He's on 335 square
I think I
with
saw
a
a video.
468 LS that we built at Horsepower Research. And
Mm.
so you can make an old car fast, and it's the advantages of the old cars. And in CAMT right now is the fact that they have a lower minimum weight by
Mm.
hundreds of pounds.
Mm.
And it's really hard to get an S197 or S550 Mustang or a fifth or sixth gen Camaro anywhere near the minimum weight for cam. There's
Mm.
just, you can't cut enough stuff away. But you can sure spend all the money in the world on power, and you can have exotic materials. So and we'll get to that in a minute, but there's a bit of a spending, there's no limit of spending in all of cam.
Mm.
And so you can make the old cars handle, and we plan to do that with our Fox we'll talk about.
Mm.
But it takes a lot of fundamental big changes.
Yeah.
ABS is critical. They don't allow ABS in CAMT unless they've changed that.
I know
That was the
some
rule for
people
a
that run
while.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think they may have changed that. Early on, you couldn't. And that
Mm.
was one of the delineators. Hey, if you run ABS, you got to run CAMC. in an older car.
Yeah.
And if you run aero like that, the rule now, you can't have effectively can't have any aero in KMT. And that was one of the reasons why we got out of street prepared in 2013, because we were really frustrated with the aero rules. We're stuck in the 1950s with spoilers and I had a plastic splitter off Laguna Seca because it was on the same line. But this is God, that's 12 years ago. And I was frustrated with no aero because, like a lot of people, I don't just autocross. I took the same S197 and we ran it in NASA for 5 years and we dominated for 3 of those. And once we went to a big Hoosier and big Aero with a stock engine, we set all the TT3 track records in Texas. And so I really enjoyed that. It was a new type of competition, but it's way more expensive. Consumables are a lot more
Yep.
than autocross. So I still did both. And sometimes I would run a completely different tire and different aero package for autocross versus what we did in time trial because the rules were just so stuck in the past.
Yeah. And that was NASA time trials,
NASA
though,
time
right?
trial.
Yep.
SCCA time trial didn't really kind of come on the scene
Mm.
until about 7, 8 years ago. And the rules were a mess.
Okay.
And they've really gotten better in the last 4 or 5 years. Here in Texas region, we had a really strong time trial program 7, 8 years ago. And they were based off autocross classes because the national rule set was so weird and so alien and foreign from what the local autocrossers ran. It didn't make any sense. And slowly but surely, time trial and autocross rules kind of started to merge.
Mm.
And in the last 2 years, they started to diverge again. We can talk about that,
Yeah. It makes
separately,
sense
but
that they'd be the same. I mean, because
you would want
if you're wanting
crossover.
to get people to cross over between,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah. Because it's a built-in, that the SCCA is real big about, track night in America is kind of their gateway to get you people on track. And then if they do that and get good at it, like, okay, let's go do SCCA time trial and HPDE. And it's a really growing program. But sometimes the rules just didn't make sense and
Mm.
they've gotten better. A lot of people writing in, more experienced folks getting on the time trial board, the classing board, and that's helped.
Mm.
But it's still kind of a moving target.
So I was wondering how many people actually voted on that whole wing situation. And the reason I ask is that, and
Yeah,
going back to me asking what you thought an old car was. So
yeah,
probably like me, people that are driving old iron,
yeah,
they have some type of, you know, connection to that car. It's their
sure,
first hot rod, it's their dad's car, it's
yeah,
whatever, and that car is what they have in their mind, and they don't want to see a bunch of big flashy arrow on it because probably
yeah,
they drive it to cruise night and all of this stuff too. So
sure,
it's their everyday car.
sure.
Whereas guys that have more of the, say, 99 era Mustang or
Mhm.
Camaro, do you have any connection to that? Maybe it could
Yeah,
be a tool that you're using for your
yeah,
hobby, so you don't
sure.
care what it looks like. You don't drive it anywhere else except for on a racetrack. So I think that's kind of why some of the opinions vary. Maybe, maybe not.
I,
Uh,
I think I think it's a lot of when you grew up and what you were used to.
mm,
And Arrow used to be laughed at 10 years ago when we had a big wing on our S197 Mustang. We showed up in 2014 because we'd done Optima events in 11 and 12 and 13, but we showed up in 2014 and they allowed aero and there was really no class. It was one class in Optima.
mm.
And you might have 75 people all shooting for the same trophy. Now there's 4, 5, 6
They
classes.
got a
I've lost
bunch,
count.
yeah.
But nobody showed up with aero. And they had an event here at Texas Motor Speedway and, all the big dogs were there, Brian Hobaugh, Danny Pop, and all these guys that had, national championship autocross experience and track guys. And we showed up in this Mustang with a stock engine and 335 square and a huge 8 square foot wing, AJ Hartman carbon wing, and a big splitter on the front. And it was in our backyard. It was right here in Fort Worth. And I knew the road course there, and we were in our own second. We were ahead of everybody by a lot.
Dang.
And I was like second in autocross and third in the speed stop. And we did well enough in D and we won the whole thing. And everybody's like, who the hell is this guy? He just, when did we allow giant wings? And Jimmy was like, well, we've always allowed it, but nobody really did it.
Right.
And that year at the Invitational LUSCI in Vegas, 30% of the cars had huge wings. The winners all had huge wings. So, it matters, to people that want to win. And I
Exactly.
have friends that hate running aero in classic cars. And I'm like, cool, you're running Optima. You're just going to race for second or third place then,
Mhm.
because you're going to get beat. Because on a 90-second road course, we've tested when it has any kind of high speed corners, you're 2.5 seconds down if you don't have aero,
Mhm.
real aero that they allow in, SCCA Max and XS, and all the cam classes except Cam T allow real aero now. And it was a really big push to get that to happen. We wrote a lot of letters.
Mhm.
Get out of the 1950s SCCA. There's people that do all these other series that want aero. And then ironically, they add aero to Cam C and Cam S, and Optima completely bans it in 2015 because they're like, it's not the right look for the TV show. So it's all about perception looks. It's not about performance or tuning.
Mhm.
If you want to go fast and they allow aero, you have to have aero. Even
Mhm.
in autocross speeds, we did testing in our with this little plastic Lexan spoiler in the back of our Mustang at Spring Nats. It was a pro solo. It was a 75-mile-an-hour corner after the first straight in a pro,
Mhm.
and I wanted to do the test, and we had 12 runs. So I was like, well, I'll take it off for one run. And I entered at the same speed, and I completely blew off the corner,
Mhm.
and the car was just washed out. I immediately put it back on and it fixed it. I'm like, okay, that was a good ABA test. I took this stupid plastic 10-inch Lexan spoiler off that looks terrible. We
Mhm.
made it a clear Lexan just so it would hide it because it was so silly. But even that 1950s aero made a big enough difference in an autocross where I had to have it.
Mhm.
And if they would allow aero and street prepared right now, they would have it.
Mhm.
Street mod allows aero. Everyone has aero. It's because it works.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things that it just seems odd to me that we have unlimited spending in cam, and cam T is no exception. But no aero it just seems weird. It can look right. Again, it's perception. 10 years ago, people would make fun of you if you came to the wings, like, oh, you're like the guy from Cars cartoon with the
Mhm.
two stack. Because I have a double wing on the Mustang S550. Um, but when you're making 2 Gs in a corner and almost 2 G under braking, you can't do that with aero. You
Mhm.
have to have it. So it's one of those must-haves. And I think they're worried about, well, all these guys with vintage iron are going to come out here and get just whooped by the one guy that has a big wing. And there's more to it than that.
Yeah,
Tires
of
matter more,
course. Yeah.
suspension matters, probably almost as much. Power matters a little bit, almost not at all. If you allow traction control, we have traction control in our S550
Mhm.
Mustang. It
They
makes
do.
744 to the wheels, and it's adjustable. I can adjust for slip and how much gain to pull out. And I have a setting for street tires and race tires and track and autocross. And it's worth about a second and a half a lap. It makes the car easier, more consistent to drive. It was not a cheap thing to install. It is not an OEM based traction control. It is legit motorsports adjustable.
Mhm.
And I just come out of a corner in third gear and just let it eat. And the computer's like, bah, 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 and away you go. So that in an autocross is huge. And it's weird that more people don't talk about that.
Mhm.
Or I bet the guys that are fast have it and they just don't talk about it. I talk about stuff. I don't know when to shut up. And I share all of our secrets on setup because I want my customers to be as fast or faster than we are.
Mhm.
So that's another one of those things that if you don't have it and the class allows it, man, you are shooting yourself in the foot
Yeah.
without it.
And I mean, look, like the guys I was alluding to, and I happen to fall into that category, is this is my go
Fun.
autocross, go to
Yeah.
cruise night, driving around, get ice
Sure.
cream, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm autocrossing for fun because
Yeah.
I'm not good enough to win. I mean,
Right.
if I was doing it to win, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be in a freaking 50-year-old Mopar
Exactly.
or 55-year-old. Sorry. Um, so
Yeah.
uh, why not make them legal? And the guys that want them can put them. The guys that don't, you don't. I mean, look, the
Yeah. The people that scream the loudest probably aren't the most competitive people anyway. And
and yeah,
they don't want to do it because they don't want to think like, well, I got to do it now. Or I'm going to go to Cars and Coffee. I'm going to get laughed off the lot. And 10 years ago, you bring vintage iron out with big arrow and you're going to be the laughing stock. There's a 69 Camaro we have, two frame car we built for a customer at 345 Hoosiers. It's a flat bottom car with a double front wing, splitter, a diffuser, and a huge wing out the back. And you show up at the track and people freak out. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I
hmm,
never thought about aero in a 69 Camaro, but that looks freaking wicked. And the
yeah,
engine's set back 2 feet and it's an LS and it's a dog box. So it just sounds awesome.
hmm,
So yeah, I think the perception of I'm going to get laughed off the lot if I show up at the cruise with this, and real aero, real splitters, especially, are not fun on the street, and I found that out at Optima when they made us drive across Vegas with a giant splitter, and I scraped it everywhere. Um, but to be effective, it's got to be kind of low to the ground. And in some autocross lots, that just doesn't work. I did LS Fest last year with real aero, and oh my God, driving around the Texas Motor Speedway infield roads, it was just beating the crap out of me. I'm like, okay, this isn't appropriate for this lot because we're having to drive over curbs to get from one lot to the next. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, in certain situations, it's not fun, but you can still have pretty effective aero that's street friendly and still make a difference on a 45-second autocross. It might be worth a second.
Mm.
It's just hard to ignore the data. The science is real.
I agree. I mean, it'd be
But
nice.
it's money. It is money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people would probably try and wing it and do it wrong.
Sure. So. And that's the beauty of the internet. There's some really good information out there. There's a Facebook group I'm on, Professional Awesome Technical Forum. It's just a Facebook group, but the guys, Professional Awesome Aero, are on there answering questions, and we share a lot of information with each other. And you don't have to buy a $4,000 wing like I have on my car. You can buy a $900 wing from Nine Lives Racing, and it's aluminum, and it's like 80% as good for a quarter of the cost. And you don't have to buy a carbon splitter. Good God, I never run those. We run plywood, half-inch birch, furniture grade plywood is $44 a sheet. And we make every one of them out of plywood because they can take a beating. We used to have aluminum ones and they would get beat up and destroyed. And yeah, plywood is great. So it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. I mean, you could literally spend less than $1,000 and have a homemade splitter with some ramps, some, tunnels inside of it. That could generate hundreds of pounds of downforce at 100 miles an hour. And you could have like a Nine Lives aluminum wing, and you don't have $1,000 in that. And the car on a road course, you're going to find seconds. And in autocross, you're going to find time too. So technology does get better over time. We can do a lot better than spoilers and air dams. That's 1950s. And that's my problem is if you're crippling that class. So people like me, we're building this Fox and we're going to run it in cam. And I'm probably going to have to run it in Cam C because I will not be out there with another freaking spoiler. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that stuff again. That's just, it's so alien, from what we have. We have a Max 5 SCCA time trial car, and my wife's 95 M3. It was a $1,500 ratty barn find. And that car now has a wide body. It's on 315s, has a huge wing from Nine Lives. It's got a splitter we made. And it is fast. It is legit fast for something with 246 of the wheels. And the aero is a big part of that. We do tests every time we make a change on one of our project cars. I go to the same track and run the same configuration, try to run the same temperatures, same driver, and aero was worth a huge jump. Going to 315s from a 255 was a huge jump. I love big tires. I love big aero. I love big power. And minimal weight. And that's just the one piece that's missing from Cam T is no aero. It just seems crazy to me. In 2025, when you can buy a ZR1 that's 1,000 horsepower and makes all this downforce, and we can't put a wing on a car in an unlimited spending class, it just seems strange to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, I went to the Cam Challenge in St. Louis, and I mean, they got guys with Speed Tech chassis, ABS, sequentials, traction control.
Yeah.
All
unlimited
the
spending.
things.
Yeah. All the goodies. Exactly. Yeah. Sequentials is another area that other series are starting to penalize that. Even the aftermarket crash box sequentials that still have a clutch used to get the car going. But the factory dual clutch sequentials, I mean, they're just amazing. That's we had a Evo 10 MR in 08 when they first came out with that, and we autocrossed it in STU, and it did really well. It was just a little heavy for the 245 tires that the all-wheel drive cars had to run. But on a road course, we set all the TTA records here in NASA in Texas on street tires because that sequential, man, in an autocross, I counted one time, a 30-second autocross, it shifted 21 times.
Jeez.
And we put it in a certain bonsai mode where it always keeps it in the boost. It was like, well, we get up to fourth and then down to first. And it was amazing. And you just felt like a hero because it was rev matching and, it has dual clutches and two transmissions inside of one. So it's engaging one cluster and then the other. And it's amazing. and you
Mm.
drive a modern GT500, oh my God, you feel like a hero. I get out of my car, we call it Trigger. It's a big LS powered S550, so it kind of
Mm.
triggers people. And it's really fast. But there have been times when the car was down or it broke at the event, and a buddy of mine has a 2022 GT500. It's like, hey, just go run a session in my car. And I get out, I'm like, man, I'm really close to what my stupid car that's got a bunch of money in it. And
Mm.
it's just a GT500 on coilovers with good tires and a small wing. That transmission makes you a hero. The C8,
Yeah.
again, Tremec dual clutch sequential, amazing. The new GTD, 400,000 on a Mustang, Tremec dual clutch sequential, just
Mm.
bulletproof. Guys are putting 1,000, 1,500 horsepower through them. And I mean, the factory's, ZR1 has 1,000 horsepower with 1250 with a ZR1X. That's a great transmission. But the cost to put that in something else, holy crap, it's a $25,000
Mm.
transmission just for that. The crash box aftermarket ones, and it's Quaife and it's, a SADEP. There's a ton of them out there. You're going to spend $30,000 minimum to get that in the car. And
Mm.
people don't think about that. Like, oh, the shifter, oh, that's a force feedback. So when you push on it a little bit, it starts engaging the next gear. That's a $4,000,
Yeah.
shifter. And then you got to have like a Motec or high-end
Integration.
Haltech to
Yeah.
make it work. You're going to spend 40 or 50 grand. And, it's probably worth a second a lap on a 90-second course. And I race against guys in Trigger, and I've got an H pattern Tremec T56 Magnum XL. And I got guys out there with, 30 or $40,000 transmissions. And I gotta find that time somewhere else because I don't have 40 grand to spend on a transmission. So I kind of get why certain series are either penalizing power to weight ratios. Of course, SCCA doesn't measure power away things.
Mm-mm.
But there's usually a penalty of some sort in Grid Life or GTA or NASA if you've got a true sequential. And even the good automatics, the GM and Ford 10-speed, amazing transmission. The
Yeah.
ZF 8-speed
Yeah. The,
transmission and all the BMWs and Mercedes, amazing.
mm.
And as I get to drive a lot of customers' cars, I probably drive 60 or 70 different cars a year because I'll be at an event and I'll be out there testing one or two cars, and like two people show up, hey, drive my C8 and make a lap. And hey, hop in here and see what you think. And so I get to drive a lot of cars. And these modern automatics are freaking good. And
Mm.
the sequentials are even better. And you never miss a heel toe downshift. And again, in Trigger, I'm braking at 1.9 G, and it's got 750 wheel. And if I miss a shift just a little bit, oh, you just blew the tires away and you're off the track.
Yeah.
So
And
it
it's
makes you more
it's
confident.
yeah. So that, I mean, that kind of it almost goes back to the KMT, what we were talking
Right?
about
That's
earlier.
all legal in CAMT. You can do all of that in CAMT.
I
You can
know,
do
but I mean,
sequentials and automatics that are
right,
crazy modern.
right.
There's no
But
spending limits.
in KMC, you could have a 2005 Mustang that's
Yeah.
kind of archaic compared
Yeah.
to all that
Oh,
stuff.
it's a
So, you
big
know,
jump from the '05 to the 11. It's
right.
100 horsepower. The ABS is different, but it's really good. It's a good three-link stick axle. It's the best stick axle suspension made on planet Earth. It used to
Mm.
be the third and fourth gen Camaro, and the S197 surpassed it. It's so good. It doesn't have the torque arm brake hop that the third and fourth gen Camaros have. It's a true factory three-link with a factory painted bar. You can upgrade it to a Watts. It's a really good setup. We won a lot of races in that S197 we had,
Mm.
especially when they added some real power to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, compared to the 24 or 25 Dark Horse, it's a big jump to these newer cars.
Right.
They are the IRS and the S550 is freaking world class. It's better than what's in a Corvette. And that's why, like this Savage Geese video I was just watching, that's why they compare a Dark Horse and a C8. They're in the same class now. C8's the only car that Chevrolet makes. The Mustang is the only car that Ford makes. Everything else is an SUV or truck or a van. Every
Right.
single thing else in the United
Yeah.
States.
What are you going to compare them to?
There's no, and they're in the same price class, so they get compared, even though they're a very different car.
Mm.
And luckily, they're not in the same class, and you got to run Cam S and some of these modern cars, so, two-seaters. So I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy to compare the 70s cars with the 90s cars with the aughts with the 2020 and up. It's the technology keeps marches on. They all get heavier, they don't get lighter. And that can be frustrating. The only exception was going from the fifth gen Camaro to the sixth gen, it lost 200 pounds, but everything else just got heavier, heavier, heavier.
Right.
And that's why I'm excited about this Fox, because we pulled it in here with a 4-cylinder, 5-speed. It was 2,810 pounds soaking wet. And
Crazy.
my 2018 Mustang that I started with was 3,600 pounds. So it's like
Wow.
800 pounds heavier. The Dark Horse was 1,050 pounds heavier than this crappy little Fox Mustang. And I can do a lot of stuff and not make 1,000 pound difference. And I honestly think, and that's what I'm out to prove, that we can take a crappy third gen Camaro and a horrible Fox Mustang based on a 77 Fairmont and make it faster than the Dark Horse and make it faster than the modern stuff. That's my goal, is to bring modern suspension to old janky cars that I love, because that's what I had one in college. I had 8 Fox Mustangs in my life. And I can't keep making that mistake over and over. And I come back after 10 years, I'm gonna get another Fox. But God, these are awful. It's got 4 shocks in the back. It's so terrible. It's got 4 opposing control arms that bind up. So
Mm,
they have to put foam rubber in them. So there's terrible things we're trying to make better. And I think CAMT, with the right technology, Ride Tech is doing stuff for the Fox,
mm,
and Detroit Speed is jumping it. So everybody's going back to the third gen of the Fox, going, these cars are so much lighter than the modern stuff. We
mm,
can't ignore it anymore. And guys my age, Gen X guys, are like, I grew up with this boxy, goofy Fox. I had one in high school or college, and I want one again. But you go drive one, and they're like, oh, this is my wife's minivan and runs circles around this thing.
mm.
This doesn't make 200 to the wheels. So there's things we're doing. We're putting an LS in a Fox. People are going to hate us, but it's an all aluminum pushrod V8. It'll make 500 wheel for not very much money, and it weighs 11 pounds less than the stinking 4-cylinder we pulled out. I have receipts.
That's
We
crazy.
weighed everything. So the car's going to lose weight. It's going to more than double this. We're going to 6.3 liters. We're going to gain 4 liters of displacement, and it'll probably make 5 times the power. And it's not going to gain any weight. So that's what we can do if we take the old iron, the KMT cars, and just update it to modern stuff. I
Mm.
would love to put a Windsor in there. Show me where I can buy an aluminum Windsor block for under
Yeah.
6 grand. They
No.
don't, they're crazy money to do.
Mm-mm.
So,
Then the
and
Coyote's super big and
huge.
complicated.
It's a foot wider than the LS.
Right.
And we've weighed them on paper. Oh, they say they both weigh 430 pounds with all, but no, the LS is about 95 pounds lighter. I've got receipts. I've
Mm.
weighed too many things, too many cars. The LS is a foot narrower. It's got way more displacement capability. At HPR, Horsepower Research, we do a 6.8 liter 468 all the time with stock blocks, with sleeve OEM blocks.
That's
And
crazy.
we do an 8.6 liter. No, I'm wrong. My 454 is a 7.4 liter. So we do a 7 point, the 468 is like 7.8 or something like that. Mine's a
Mm.
7.4 liter, and it's just a big pushrod V8, revs to 8,500, 744 to the wheels on just fuel, no boost, no
That's
nonsense.
crazy. How
Goes
much
from
compression?
2 to 8,500. It's 14 to 1. I mean, it's
Okay.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
But when we were 11 and a half to 1, it made 655, and
Yeah.
it did it for 2 seasons with zero effort.
Mm.
But yeah, we can do a 527 with a tall deck aluminum LS, and that's
Hmm.
8.6 liters. That's
I
a
didn't know they made
thousand
tall deck.
horsepower.
I didn't know
Oh
they made
yeah,
tall deck LS blocks.
RHS, Dart, World, everybody makes a tall deck, and
Okay.
nobody thinks about, well, how much can I stroke this? Can I stroke this 4.8 liters? Yes, you can. This little LS we have, the 6.3, it's a 383. It's a 4-inch stroke and just a regular LS1 block. Nothing fancy. But we've built those with the worst cathedral port you could think of, and 480, 500 wheel, like falling off a log, 11 and a half to 1. Nothing, just pump gas. No E85, no like Q16, none of that nonsense.
Hmm.
It's really hard not to make that kind of power
So are you
with
going
modern
to
LS.
design an SLA setup for the Fox?
So that's a really good question.
Hmm.
And no, we're not.
No.
We could.
Hmm.
There's several people that do. Cortex has an
Hmm.
SLA, and Griggs has an SLA, and it's been done to death. I am, I mean, by nature, I'm a strut guy, because that's my number one product I make.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but there are advantages to a strut over an SLA or a wishbone suspension. You can fit more tire under the fender. We did this in a first gen Mustang. We had 315s under stock fenders
Hmm.
on a first gen Mustang. They don't fit any tire. A strut is way more compact. We can fit more tire in there. I want to see how much tire we could fit under a stock Fox fender. I'm really hoping to get a 285 or 295 under there.
I think you could do
And
that.
back in the day, a 255 was like rubbing everywhere.
Hmm.
But if we can use modern uprights, and I'm not going to give away everything here, but we're going
No,
to
of
have
course not.
ABS, we're going to have modern uprights with better bearings, way more brake options, and it's going to be a strut car. And people are going to think we're crazy until we get out there and show them the lap times
Hmm.
and say, hey, I can fit more tire than you. You have fancier suspension, you have a better camber curve. I'm in this strut Mustang. My S550 Mustang is stock front suspension. It's a Mach 1 spindle, an MCS strut, and our camber plate. There's nothing fancy there. It is all I could. I stuffed the car in the wall at NCM last year at SCCA Time Trial Nationals. And I went out and bought a new spindle. It was $93. And we got a new strut, and I was back on track 2 weeks later and won that event. So struts are they like to rag on them. The two cars in this big shootout, the three cars everyone looks at, the M2, the Dark Horse, the Corvette, the M2 and the Dark Horse, strut cars,
Hmm.
multi-link rears, really modern, kick-ass rear suspension, better than what the Corvette has. They're strut cars. Porsche still makes strut cars.
Yeah.
BMW, everybody, if they care about putting more tire on the car, there's a reason why that these silly things keep working. So
And I'd
it'll
imagine,
be a strut.
and you may know, the strut setup, all encompassing all the
Mhm.
parts. I feel like it'd be a little bit lighter than the SLA setup.
It can be. We always weigh stuff, and when we go to coilovers, we typically lose 20 to 30 pounds over factory, springs and all that, because we go to a 2.25 coilover instead of the
Mhm.
giant OEM stuff. On paper, yeah, if we were building the ultimate car, we'd build a multi-link front, a multi-link rear, and a SLA front, but it would compromise tire room. It's not an advantage. It's not like, oh, we should build everything with struts, but there's a reason why Porsches they come with struts front and back on like a Cayman.
Mhm.
It's still used in 2025 and will be for the next 2 decades
Yeah.
because it's not terrible. The third gen was a huge leap from the second gen Camaro, where they had a factory AA arm. They had horrible 1 degree of caster. They had no, the geometry
Piece
was
on piece.
junk. It was junk. But the third gen just ran circles around it, and you could fit a 315 under stock fenders. I've got a 89 Camaro with stock suspension. It's got a Coney and a camber plate, 315s under all four corners. That makes more difference than some theoretical camber curve that's slightly better with a much smaller tire. So
Yeah. What
yeah,
about the what
there's some
about the
reasons.
rear?
So the rear on the Fox is especially awful. It is so bad that I could write a book about it, and there have been books written about it. And we're going to take the solid axle. We're building the car right now we're putting the LS in it because I want to do a baseline lap
Of
at
course.
this certain track. And I did one with the 2.3 liter. It was so slow. We can go over 74 miles an hour, just maxed out. It made probably 60 horsepower of the wheels. And we realized later that there was so much trash in the fuel tank. We should have just completely gone through it. It started running worse and worse. And it finally just started shut on lap 3. It was just like I think it just died, and I thought it was out of oil pressure. It just had no fuel flow. So we want to go back with a V8 that has real power, and go get a baseline lap with a stock suspension. I mean, stock springs, stock brakes with some good pads.
Hmm.
I put an 8.8 in it because I don't want to blow up the 7.5 that the four cylinders come with. It has a limited slip, and we added a rear sway bar, the factory one. So we're going out there to get a baseline lap, and I want to show how much we can gain with the front suspension we're going to do, with the wider tires, and a real IRS. And it's not going to be based on 1980s technology that the 99 Cobra is kind of somewhat based on an earlier Thunderbird. Ugh, it's all just parts bin, horrible geometry. Um, and we don't want to use the 99 to oh 04 stuff, not anything of it. But we're going to use an S550 differential with the
Yep.
Super 8.8 that came in
Hmm.
the S550. Super common, super inexpensive, super light. And we get the aluminum housings we use. I have that in my car. Like, oh, that only came in the automatics and four cylinders. I'm like, I'm on season 4 on the same differential. It's a tank, and it weighs so much less than a stick axle. And you don't have 230 pounds of unsprung
Unsprung
weight you're
weight,
trying to
right?
damp. And you don't have a stick axle. So if you hit a bump, it's affecting both sides. So you have to run
Right.
half the spring rate. So we want to use modern geometry, modern uprights, so we can have good wheel speed sensors, good ABS, good brake options out back. I'm not going to say what we're using, but we've tested multiple OEM suspensions. We've got 3D scans of a bunch of cars, and of the Fox front and back. And we're excited to get through this next round of tests with the stock suspension. We're going to put a camber plate on, do another test, and then we'll come back and we'll throw the solid axle away. We'll throw the whole front cross motor away, and we'll just start over. Clean slate,
Mhm.
not using Mustang 2 stuff or all this crap that's been used so many years for street rotting. And we're not going to use 99 Cobra stuff. So it's going to be modern. It's going to be, maximize tire room, and not have crazy geometry. It's going to be 21st century stuff front and back. So we're calling it the 21st century Fox. um, and probably going to get sued by Fox, but that's okay. Yeah, we're really excited about that. And I've probably shared too much already, but it's going to have all the good traction
Yeah.
control. It's going to have really good ABS, electric assisted steering. So it won't have a hydraulic pump, 2000 PSI of flammable hydraulic fluid. That's the number one cause of underhood fires in most cars. I've seen a racetrack. So it's going to be all the stuff we've learned and we've done on our Mustang and all the other cars we work on. We're gonna put all that in a stinky, nasty old 88 Mustang where the interior smells like a dirty gym sock. And we're ripping all that out. We just ripped all the carpet out. We're putting carpet back in because we want it to be cam legal. But we're 46 pounds down and we're putting carpet back in. We took all the undercoating off and got a lighter weight carpet. We just pulled the dash. So we're going to fix the heater. We're going to have real air conditioning, real heater, real streetcar stuff so that, we can go to the Optima series or Good Guys and no one's going to be like, oh, that's just a race car. No, it's going to be a real car, registered, inspected, and it's already insured. So I'm excited about that one. And then we've got late 80s BMW E30 and this 89 IROC. We want to do the same modern 21st century stuff, take bits and pieces of the modern BMWs and stuff them in this old BMW, take modern GM stuff and stuff them into this third gen. So it looks cool to people that grew up with those boxy, square, silly cars, but better interior. God, the interiors are so bad. And way better suspension and modern tires and brakes and all that. So that's kind of the plan. But yeah, CAMT is the home. But if I want to go on a road course and run with SCCA, I have to have we put a different trunk on with a wing. We'll put a different splitter on. So we can't do good stuff and run SCCA time trial and SCCA autocross in what effectively are crossover classes. That's where it all kind of breaks down. This arrow.
Will the IRS bolt in to that Fox?
We're really hoping to involve very little to no cutting. Some of the solutions out there are like, okay, cut everything off from. We don't want that. We want it to be where a guy in a good weekend with some hand tools and a jack can get this in there without just butchering the car.
Right, and that's what I was thinking is if you got to start cutting and welding, I think you reduce your audience or potential customers, should say.
That's the goal. Is something that an average Joe can put in a good hard weekend and not have to just butcher the car. Maybe drill a hole here to add a bolt hole. There's, the Fox has 4 control arms, so there's 4 mounting points on the chassis, and then the extra 2 shocks. There's some extra mounting holes we can
quad
attach
shocks
to.
On the back,
right. The quadra shock. So we're gonna make a whole new subframe. No exotic materials. We don't want it to be a $20,000 Detroit Speed front end, kind of solution. We want it to be something that's like, I can afford that. And the uprights are like, oh, if these ever break, I just go to the junkyard. It's not a bespoke billet, $4,000 pair of uprights. And if we ever went out of business, people are like, well, what am I going to do in 10 years when you retire or whatever? I want it to be like, you can go to the junkyard and get out of this XYZ car. And we're going to share all that. So
that's cool. I like the path you're going. Going with that. It's the simplicity. I mean, obviously the IRS is probably a little more complex, but I mean, if you keep it a strut, can't get any easier than installing that,
Right?
And
we're already making,
if you keep if you're consciously trying to keep costs down, your sell costs, I think it increases your window of customers too. I mean, let's face it, Fox bodies. Well, some of them are very expensive.
They've
some
gotten
people
that way, but
but you can still pick up some beaters for a couple thousand.
This was a $2,000 car. This wasn't like some cream puff.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a 4-cylinder, which nobody wants, but it's relatively stock. They're still out there. They made millions of these cars from 79 to 93. It's a huge model run. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody makes 13, 14-year model runs anymore. So there's a lot of them out there. And again, there's some undescribable draw that some people of a certain age have to that chassis because that's what they know. That's what they love that. They can't, I mean, give me a Fox notchback,
I love them.
yeah, I just can't. 87 to 93, they all kind of look the same. They made them for a lot of years. I've had, like I said, this is the eighth one.
Mm.
So I keep going and making the same mistake, and now I'm gonna fix it so that people don't keep having to drive around with like, oh, it's making that clunking, squeaking, the rear's bound up again. Oh man, I've blown another Coney shock, and so we want to fix all that so that
Mm.
it can you can get out of. And we've had guys that that bought the GT350s. They really
Mm.
like them. Guys that used to have Porsche GT3s bought the Shelby, and it's a really good car. It's almost the same speed on track to a certain point. And they're like, yeah, my Shelby costs what the maintenance costs on my GT3 for 1 year. I just paid cash for the car. So I want people that are used to modern, good quality handling to be able to hop in this car and go, oh man, this is everything I remember by the looks, but it handles like my modern Mustang or my 911. So
Mm.
we want to try to bridge that gap and
Yep.
not make it a $250,000 car. That's
Right.
just we need to make it attainable.
Right. So let's go back to the aero stuff. You've been involved with SEC a long time.
Yeah,
You've kind of seen the evolving classes,
for
and
sure.
I think we can both agree we don't want more classes, but at the same time,
Oh my God.
all the
Yeah.
cars that fit into cam, basically what we've been talking about, the technology of newer cars has changed so fast. It's almost like you need more classes, but
Yeah.
then how do you do it? Then, so what is your opinion of the origins of where you started
Yeah.
getting all the way up to where we are now with the cam classes?
And we talked about this before we started the Zoom. Um, this is, CAM is a culmination of decades of pent up frustration with SCCA rules. And people, they call it the un-SCCA class. And Raleigh Boreen and his wife and Howard Duncan kind of created this class in 2014. January of 14, it was a provisional class. It's still not nationally recognized, which is frustrating a lot of people 11 years later. But that wasn't when CAM really started. CAM really started in the early 90s. In San Francisco, with a big autocross region, they had a class called Super Street Mod. And I was at the time a college student at Texas A&M in College Station, and we had a big 150 student car club, and we had an amazing autocross site with an old Air Force base that was sold to the school for $1. And we had multiple 7,500 square foot long runways tied together. We could make road courses, and we regularly ran a 1.4 mile called the police training course, which was painted on the concrete, and it was a road course. But we ran a lot of autocrosses out there, and we'd have between 100 to 150 people show up from Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas. It was a big mecca because we had the best autocross site in the country. And we got it for free. We paid no dollars for it. It was free to
That's
use as a student
crazy.
club. And we were all broke students that would pick up scab tires out at Texas World Speedway when they'd have like an escort race or a Coney Challenge or whatever the series was running there. So I had 77 tires in my college apartment that I lived in by myself. Difficult dating here when you get the tire stench in your place, but I had free tires for life. And we wanted to do things that weren't allowed in stock. And even street prepared back then was really restrictive. It still is to this day. And since then, we've got street prepared, street touring, cam, and X prepared. There's all these classes where this kind of unlimited thinking happens, and they're all just different enough to where you can't jump from class to class. Cam and XS are now kind of a merged class. Cam, you got your four cam classes or whatever it's 3 or 4, and you
Three.
got XS, which is cam for everybody else, and they're gaining in popularity. But this all happened in the early 90s when Street Mod was just a figment of the imagination. We had a Yahoo email list. This is how we conversed before forums, before Facebook. And we debated because we had this super street mod class we created at Texas A&M in 92, and we stole the class from San Francisco. It had to be registered and insured, and we had to have street tires. And I think it was a 180 treadwear back then, and everything else was wide open. You could do anything. And at any given event, if there was 150 cars there, 50 of them were in one class, Super Street Mod. And it was that way for decades. And it was hugely popular. I remember in 1999, the S2000 had just come out, and they came out with ringer tires. And we're like, well, if it came to the factory with them, we can run them. Roger Johnson, who was a big course designer, he let me co-drive his car. 47 cars, and I beat them all in the S2000 a day. It was awesome. There's all these like stroker Mustangs and Camaros and Corvettes, and they're like, we're banning that tire. I'm like, cool, ban it. But yeah, that unlimited thinking, because we were so many people were frustrated with how slow to change and how unrealistic the mods and street prepared were. They didn't match what everybody did to their cars. Oh, you
Mm,
can't do a camshaft. Oh, you can change the intake manifold. You can put a carburetor on or aftermarket EFI, but you can't port match the head beyond 1 inch. We're like, what? Why
mm,
would you do that? So they had some rules that just didn't make logical sense for people that were in the aftermarket doing. I was wrenching on cars back then and doing a little side work. So we had modified cars, but we didn't want to pay for our compounds. Even back in the 90s, they were like, it's so much more money and they wear out so fast. I just wanted street tires with kind of a wide open, do what you want to do mentality. And that became Street Mod. Dennis Grant, who kind of had a little too much control. There wasn't really a committee back then. He kind of wrote the rules. And he made cross make engine swaps illegal. And we're like, what? Why would you care what brand is on the valve cover? That's dumb.
mm,
And that stuck around for probably 20 years. And they finally allow it. Whoa, but you got to have a 150-pound penalty. So there was some dumb things, and they made it with race tires, which I'm like, nobody wants that. So, street mod's there. It's never really grown to the capacity of the class. There's some hardcore people that run it. Street touring in the early aughts, was really popular. And we ran a 97 M3 and STU from '04, '05, '06, '07, and had championships. My wife won two. I coned away a first and ended up with a second one year. Really popular class, 40, 50 cars at nationals. And it took forever for them to recognize that class.
mm.
But it was the same thing. It was fairly unlimited, and then it started getting more restrictive. And like, what? You're making me do dumb things again. I'm not liking this. We had Aero, then took Aero away. I ran Aero in '07, had a big wing, measured it. They're like, okay, we're going to write the rules around your wing because that's a cheap APR wing. Nah, they banned it the next year. These
Mm,
liars. So that's frustrating. And then we had street touring pony car. And I just looked it up, and we wrote the rules for that in 14 before, actually it was 13, because we were running a 2011 Mustang in 2010, 11, and 12 in STX, which is we're limited to a 265 tire, and the car made 433 to the wheels.
Oh,
It was
geez.
undrivable in first and second gear.
Right.
We're actually quicker in third gear on second gear courses because it just made too much power. We were on the same size tire as cars that weighed 1,000 pounds less in the same class, which didn't
Yeah.
make any sense. And we're like, guys, you need to either let us run an STU with more tire or just create a new class. And they finally let us run an STU in 2012, and I put a 1810 275 on. We immediately got better in packs, even though they had a worse packs. We're like, we went from like 30th in packs to like top five. And I didn't get better, just the car responded better
Yeah,
because it was
of
a
course.
heavy 3,600
Mm,
pound car, needed more than a 265 tire. And we're like, great, we turned all this data in. We're like, please let us create a pony car allowance in STU or a pony car class. And we wrote the rules and went back and forth. And it finally came out in the fast track in like January of 15. But Cam had already come out, and
mm,
Cam just took the air right out of street touring pony car. And a lot of people are like, I really like Cam, but I don't necessarily want to do a blower or an engine swap or carbon this, or I just wanted street touring stuff with some good suspension and street tires. And so it was kind of stillborn. That class kind of died early. And Cam just took off. And we had a Cam challenge here, I think in 2016 in Texas that we sponsored. And it was huge. People came from all over the country. And we had just Cam cars. It was great. And we're like, this
mm.
is really cool. So we just started building for Cam and had a lot of fun. Went to Nationals in 16, ran Cam S and just had a ball. So I like where Cam is, and I started to do Optimus. Like, okay, I get some of the unlimited stuff, but man, when people really see an unlimited build, they're gonna freak out. They're
Right.
gonna be pissed, and they're gonna want to take back. And I hate rules takes back. So if you build a car for an unlimited class, and I've done that, and then they take the rules back. They did that to me and Max and time trial this year. Like, oh, you had a Lexan window, it was legal for 4 years. We're making it illegal now. I'm like, I have to change the whole back of the car now because the aero comes through the window, and I can't cut the tempered glass. So I hate takebacks, and I've always been worried that Cam, which isn't really a committee, it just has like two people that write the rules. So the committees are frustrating because they take forever to make changes, but sometimes they keep some stability.
Mm,
And I think Cam has had some instability because when somebody built something extreme, like, oh, we don't want two frame cars anymore. Mike Dussault had this
mm,
67 Camaro,
yeah.
and he built it for Cam, and it got a little wild, and it's got a transaxle in the back, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what we meant. So they've pulled back some things. They've had some big takebacks, and again, I hate takebacks, more than I hate bad rules. But I think the rules, trying to fit the rules on one 8.5 by 11 page was kind of short-sighted. It's gotten a little bit bigger rule book. It's better. It was just one class initially, and then they're like, well, we got to give the old cars their own class, and we got to give the two-seaters their own class, which is kind of how Street Mod worked. So I personally think, and now they've added XS, which is just Cam for everyone else. I think they could probably flesh out 6 or 7 classes in Cam, change the name, I don't care. Call it Extreme Street that the other classes are.
Mm,
And you could have everybody on 200 treadwear tires with unlimited engine swaps, basically unlimited power. It doesn't really matter when you can't put it down. And real aero, give them all a reasonable minimum weight, which Cam is mostly pretty reasonable. And just let them eat, let them go to town and get rid of street repair, get rid of street mod. I think street touring is way more constrained. I think more people understand that there's a lot less spending there. So have street touring and extreme street Cam and not 4 categories. You could take those 4 and combine them down to 2, I
mm,
think. And there's no street touring for like a Corvette. Some of the Corvette, there's not a class for them.
mm,
And there's supposed to be crossovers between SCCA time trial and solo. That was the goal. And SCCA time trial, we do have classes for pretty much everything in sport, which is the same as street,
mm,
and tuner, which is the same as street touring, and then max, which is the same as cam and XS. There was a direct crossover for all 3 of those categories. And they explicitly left out street prepared, street mod, anything with R comps, they just go unlimited. And there's only 2 classes and no one runs that. So those 3 categories are the big 3. And I think there should be more crossover. But in time trial, there's more classes, there's more cars allowed, and way more than they have in street touring and autocross. And in max, there's some good crossover still. But yeah, I think that they could tighten things up a little bit, and they've got too many categories. And every time I write this in, they're like, "Oh, you're going to piss off the 4 guys that are still run street prepared, and they're the whole committee, and they're on the, the big board, and they're going to be mad." I'm like, well, sometimes you got to retire your 50-year-old race car that's built around rules that were conceived in the 50s.
mm,
So I still think there's some old thinking that they need some fresh blood. They need to get rid of some classes. I'm going to say the controversial thing that no one wants to talk about. I think ladies classes uh, are somewhat insulting to some women. My wife doesn't run ladies classes anymore. She used
mm,
to. She's like, I don't need to do that. There's no ladies classes in time trial. I think that would cut the classes down by half. And then have a PAX, women's pack. Our local region just has a women's PAX.
mm,
There's not a ladies class for every single of the 78 classes or whatever there are, because there don't need to be. There's too many classes. So I think we could reduce class numbers and increase participation and have the crossover between time trial and autocross, because it's a lot of times the same people. In our region, all the time trials are autocrossers,
mm.
and it's just another outlet for them. We have a really good time trial in Texas region, and it's a really good program, and it's all autocrossers. And there's some NASA people coming over, and some people that do grid life and some other stuff too. There's no club racers that do it, and it's a shame, because club racing is a complete hot mess. That's just a complete disaster. The classes are all they're so ancient, and they don't jive with anybody else's. SCCA time trial has a lot of the same rules that Global Time Attack and Grid Life and Optima have. So you can go bounce around and like, I'm going to do this Grid Life event and come run my local. And SCCA club racing is just off in left field. It doesn't match up with NASA or PCA or BMWCC or any road race group. So that's a whole other podcast.
I, think- I I bet that's probably kind of regional, since you've got so many
It is.
good road
Yeah,
courses by you.
it
Because
helps.
I mean, we NOLA Motorsports is my home track,
Oh, I love
and
NOLA. I love that track.
you know they I think there's only a handful of autocrossers that go and do, the open track days.
Yeah, and that's so when I first did my first NOLA event was probably 2013. And they have a great autocross site. There's a couple lots
Mhm.
there you can do autocross at. And I've done Optima there, and I ran at a NASA event one weekend in my time trial car, and then went and did the autocross between sessions.
Yeah, that's what
And
they
it was
do.
so much fun. It was a really good group. I really liked the people. Again, this is 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and it's frustrating that do they still run there at NOLA and
Mhm.
that kind of dedicated a lot with all the garages around it
Yep.
near the kart track.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's weird that there's SCCA time trial. It's a different animal. I know the NASA, NOLA, and Southeast region both run at NOLA, but NASA doesn't have autocross, so they don't have crossover. They did briefly for like 2 years, and NASA X, they got rid of it.
Mhm.
And I really pushed to have that because it was the same rules. It was the same rules as time trial, and they
Mhm.
had it in autocross. It was a really good idea. And this is before SCCA time trial had happened. I'm like, dude, you guys need to just take over and let's launch NASA X in every region that has a NASA time trial and road race. And they just didn't do it because again, SCCA to me at the time, 10 years, 12 years ago, was so broken. I didn't think it was fixable. And time trial convinced me otherwise. Time trial has gotten really good. They were really responsive to letters. They made some big changes early on. And I'm a believer now. And I build everything for SCCA time trial, and then I just let it fall into what autocross class it does. This Fox is going to be in Max too. It's going to have aero, and it's going to tick me off if I got to take that off to come to an autocross. Because
You will.
honestly, when we run aero, we run a different spring rate. We run, shock pack. We do some other things and change the ride height and some other things because as you get faster and you get more downforce, the car starts to compress.
Mhm.
So we have to run different spring rates.
Hmm.
So I don't want to have to change the entire suspension and the aero just to go do an autocross. That's frustrating to me. So
You will if you want to do a KMT
I know,
autocross.
right? And so we might end up in Cam C, which has a much higher minimum weight now. It's 3,300 pounds, used to be 3,000. So we'd have to add ballast because this car, I want it to be 2,900 pounds. And in solo, they still weigh without driver. That's crazy to me. But
Yeah.
it,
KMT is 3280.
is it 3280?
Mhm.
Wow, that's high. It used to be 3,000. What's Cam C then? Good Lord.
I want to
I
say
don't even.
34 something.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's a tank.
Yeah, that's crazy. So again, things just crept up and crept up. Again, that's more reality with what late model cars are in Cam C. They're nothing is under 3,600 pounds anymore. Hadn't been for years.
Mm-mm.
And it's a GT 500, 4,250 soaking wet. I mean, that's a heavy car.
Jesus.
But on a road course, I mean, it's a missile. Over
Yeah.
600 to the wheels on track in stock form, and it's real easy to pull you up.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're fast. They're fast.
Do you
So,
do you think they
yeah,
should have like a Cam X class that's a catch-all for like the baddest, unlimited, if you will?
yeah. They did that in prepared. They
Hmm.
created X prepared. I think it was '08, and I ran XP at nationals one year, and it was like, oh, this is cool. This
Hmm.
is like prepared cars, but it's on modern cars with aero and can't and prepared was so still to this day stuck in the past. They didn't get a fuel injection until like 10 years ago. It's crazy.
Hmm.
It's like carburetors, get out of here. It's the dinosaur class, and I ran it for a couple of years. I'm like, this is so frustrating. So yeah, I get that XP, having that X class is not a terrible idea. But right now, you could do anything in cam. I mean, the only thing you could add would be like R comps, and then that's just street modified. So I
Yeah,
don't know
true.
what you would do other than have a really low minimum weight for like bonkers cars. And Cam S has got to be much lower than those other two. So I don't know if that would make it any better. Right now, you can't run Cam T in an old car. You can run Cam C, but I think the minimum weights are just too high. Then it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
I'm not going to put 600 pounds of ballast in the car. That's crazy. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
kill myself taking weight out and keeping it light and then have to put it all back in. That'd be frustrating. Be a lot of
It's
lead blocks.
the more we talk about it, the more confusing the rule sets become,
Yeah.
you
And they've
know?
they've morphed. The minimum weights have gone up again, probably for good reason. But I mean they never weigh anybody.
They
Um
do it. They
at
weigh this at
nationals.
yeah,
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 at
local, they
nationals.
never we don't
No,
even
no,
have scales.
no. But
So,
even time trial doesn't weigh at nationals. It's rare. They bring scales. They almost never take them out of the truck in time trial nationals, and they should. But yeah, they're yeah, nationals. You're right. I've worked tech at nationals,
what do
solo
you
nationals.
think
Yeah,
drove changing the minimum weights though? I mean,
the realities of modern cars, they're just so heavy that almost nobody could run Cam C at it used to be 3,200 pounds there, and I think Cam T was 3,000,
okay.
and I think that's just too light. I mean, what's your Duster weigh? It's got to be over
With me
3,000.
in it, it's 3550,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm like 200 pounds. So
right. And again,
yeah.
I don't think they weigh with driver yet in that class. They do in some other categories, but not Cam.
They did weigh with us in it
Did they?
at
Okay, maybe they
yeah.
changed the rules. Again,
Well,
I'm
that and that weight, that 30 whatever I said it
yeah.
was, that's with driver. So
Okay,
take
yeah.
your, you may be thinking of weight without driver. So
Sure. Yeah, yeah. That's the way they did it for years. So if there was a driver now, then I am ignorant and could
yeah.
be very wrong.
Now my
So
car could be as light as that Fox if I wanted it to, but I mean,
you
you
got to
got
get
a
crazy.
100 pounds of dynomat in the thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
AC heat, all this
We
business, and
we just spent a day scraping all that out of the factory stuff. So again, we found 46 pounds. It was crazy, but we're gonna keep AC and heat in this car, and I think Cam should make you have that in time trial, even in max. Until you have a fully caged car, you have to have full interior, but you can replace the factory materials. And we found a lot of weight in our 95 M3 with changing the carpet. Got the cheapest carpet you can get from Lowe's, black, real thin. The heater we have is an electric heater. It's really light. It technically works, but I wouldn't run it for very long.
You don't go to Minnesota with it in the winter.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, you have to have certain things, they considered max even in time trial to be, street driven cars. So we
Hmm.
have insurance on the car, we have tags. But yeah, I wouldn't drive it across country. That's for sure. I mean, you wouldn't go on like Hot Rod Power Tour or something like that, or
Yeah.
Autocross Week.
Mm.
Those kind of series or Drag Week. Those are kind of cool.
I love them.
Yeah, they separate the real cars from the halfway built cars. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. So, well, I think we can move on to my random questions.
yeah. Go
They're
for
pretty
it.
easy.
Yeah.
What aftermarket product do you think that's had the biggest impact on either road racing or autocross?
I mean, tires.
Tires.
Everything comes down to tires. The modern 200 tread tire is so much better than it was 6 years ago,
Hmm.
20 years ago, 30 years. Tires have changed so much. It used to be a really big deal in the late 90s. Like, hey, this car makes 1G.
Hmm.
And the freaking Dark Horse is 1.5 stock with no aero. It was crazy. So tires have made the bigger difference. And that's the only thing that connects the car to the track is tires. And the technology there, the new V-Tours have got some crazy big sizes. There's so many options now. It used to be like one or two tires. Like 3 years ago, it was like you're on the yoke or you're on the Bridgestone, you're losing. And
Hmm.
now there's 3 or 4 or 5 tires that are pretty good, and they make so much difference that you can't ignore. That's the technology that, unfortunately, I don't sell wheels and tires, but that's the one that matters the most.
Do you run Vitors?
I haven't. I'm about to because I make a 345 18, and my S550 has big carbon fenders, and I can fit a 13-inch wheel at all four corners. So I'm going to probably move to that. We got stuck in unlimited this year, but I'm going to move it back to max, which is Cam
Mm.
C.
Okay.
So I want to be able to run Cam C locally. So I have a different splitter for Cam and for SCCA time trial. Then I have it's a 6-inch splitter, and then I've got a 12-inch splitter used for NASA, and we could put Hoosiers on. But hey, you buy $600 a corner Hoosiers, they hurt, man. Those A7s aren't good for very long either. So I was excited to come back and run on Hoosiers this year, and I did it for like 3 or 4 events. I'm like, oh my God, that's $2,600 in tires I just spent, and
Yep.
they're done. So the Yokohama AL52, I ran a 315 since 2020 when that came out. Ran the World Autocross Championship shootout that Optima did and Jimmy Day did. And we ran some other events. I'm like, these things are freaking fast.
Mm.
And I can get 10, 11, 12 events out of a set and set track records and personal best. So I really like the 200 retire. I think and that's why I'm still excited about Cam so much is that tire is so good and they don't just fall apart. like our
Mm.
compounds did, even to this day. They really they overheat pretty quickly. You're not going to run a whole 20-minute session on that, but in an autocross, they made it heat up fast and they work. And you're like, I got to have a second driver or I'm doomed. You really don't have to have that.
Mm.
And you're even spraying tires at hot events. So I really like the 200 tread bar tire technology. It's pretty
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah. I'm on REs and I love those things.
Great tire.
Oh man.
RE71 RS, amazing tire. I
Yep.
just did an endurance race on those, and we had a ragged out old set that was just nothing left. We did a 3 hour enduro. We're like killing it. And they were really kind of got rain the next day. It's like, well, let's put these Continental Extreme Contact. It's like the spec tire for WRL now and
Mm.
Champ. And oh my God, we were 2.5 seconds a lap slower. It was terrible.
That's crazy.
Like those ragged out RE71 RSs are 2 years old. They're bald. It's like, let's do a tire change at the next driver stop because he suck. So yeah, RE71 RS, great tire. My wife won some national championships on Bridgestone. I'm sitting there looking at a big magazine thing they did with her and a bunch of other drivers that year. So yeah, I love Bridgestone. Good tire.
Okay. Next question. What's harder to master, the road course or autocross?
Autocross, no doubt. I mean, I always say a good autocrosser is a great track driver.
Mm.
A great track driver is rarely an average autocrosser. It's a different skill set. Autocrossing is a knife fight in a phone booth. It's so much harder to be smooth and fast when stuff's coming at you, bam, 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 bam. And a road course, it's like going through the corner, even at Coda, running Circuit of the Americas, like, oh, great, turn 11, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. It's just everything takes so long. In the moment, you having car control that you learn in a parking lot and you can learn nowhere else to that extreme can make you just a hero on track. So I do a lot of instructing for time trial and with NASA and SCCA. And when people are not getting it, I'm like, buddy, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to go stand in a parking lot for 2 hours. You're going to be pissed, but you're going to learn so much in an autocross that applies here that I can't teach you here. I can't teach you to drive 11 tenths here. You're not going to get car control. You're not going to get, corner management where you can get the car right on a cone. You're not going to learn that here. You have
Mm.
to learn autocross. So yeah, I am 100% autocross is a massive skill that the driver can overcome so much on a road course without power, without the right tire, without aero and good brakes, you're doomed.
All right. Last one. Who would you nominate to be on a guest on the show?
Oh my goodness. That's a really good question. Man, I would honestly, I would talk to Justin Peachy.
No, he's already
He's
been
done,
on. He's
has he?
up.
I mean, he's done so
Yeah.
much, with grid life and time trial and even autocross. Okay. Andy Hollis, have you talked to him?
Nope. Never
Andy
even heard of
Hollis,
him.
he's an autocrosser and a track guy, and
Hmm?
he's written a lot of articles at Grassroots Motorsports. He's out of Austin. He kind of was, he was in the sport 10, 12 years before I was.
Hmm.
And he does a lot of, he's retired now, but he does a lot of racing, a lot of testing for Grassroots, all their street tire tests, all their tests. It's Andy Hollis is doing
Okay.
all that. So he knows a lot about testing, a lot about tires. He does one lap of America every year and something, and has been autocrossing for a long time. Uh, Bent and even broke a few rules and got his wrist slapped for a few times. Had to take a little time out, but he's been in more of the street touring, street prepared stock. He's done so many classes. Him and like Bob Tennell, who's won a championship in every category.
Jeez.
He's won like 9 championships in different classes in the same car, and from stock to street prepared and street modified and modified. He's just won a bunch. So Bob Timonell, Andy Hollis, two pillars of the autocross world. Should talk
Okay.
to them.
Interesting. Before we wrap up, where can people find you on social media?
On socials, I mean, look for Terry Fair on Facebook. I post a lot to my personal page. I probably do 5, 6, 7 posts a day of stuff we're doing at the shop. I'll post an article or a video that I find interesting at Grassroots Motorsports articles. Sometimes I write for them. You can find me there, Vorshlag on our Facebook page. I post a lot there. YouTube, Vorshlag. What's the Instagram is Vorshlag_motorsports. I post there 4 or 5 times a day. So yeah, you can always find me on socials, and that's, I get a lot of people emails at Vorschlag, but for the most part, it's usually started with a Facebook message somewhere.
That's how I found
And
you.
yeah, that's how everybody finds me because on my typical 10, 12 hour day, I probably spend 6 of it on social media and answering questions, making posts, getting people excited about motorsports. That's kind of my job.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's engineering going on, and there's guys over here building stuff in the CNC room, the shop. There's a lot of management. I probably do 10,000 steps a day inside this building, just staying busy. But I am here at this keyboard 7 days a week, on vacation, wherever. I can't stop. It's like a drug.
All right, Terry. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do with the Foxbody. I,
Cool.
I
Yeah.
love those cars. As
Yeah.
terrible as they are,
They're
I love
terrible, but I love them too. I can't explain it. Yeah.
them.
I'm
So
excited about that.
I
So
appreciate you coming on, and
sure.
maybe we'll cross paths one day.
Good deal. It was
All
nice
right,
talking to you, Tim. I
thank you.
appreciate it.